We know when it says
Live.
All right, we're back with Old New Dude and co-host
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
And this is a Game of Thrones Jon 3. After birthday and Father's Day weekend, I had a blast. So all the well wishes and everybody, thank you very much. As usual, we'll get right into what Richard sees because he's the brains of the operation, and then I'll just jump in with my stupid stuff every now and then. So take it away, Richard.
Thank you, sir. The courtyard rang to the Song of Swords. A Song of Swords. Ice and Blackfire could be the swords of ice and fire, perhaps.
Yes.
And I guess if you're LML, then that's really Dawn and Blackfire. His fingers fumbling with the fastenings on his cloak. So cold, he thought, remembering the warm halls of Winterfell where the hot waters ran through the walls like blood through a man's body. There was scant warmth to be found in Castle Block. The walls were cold here, and the people colder. So his fingers fumbling could be foreshadowing of his future hand burns and his clenching of his hands over and over again and so forth.
Yeah.
And then interestingly, comparing the warm walls of Winterfell to the wall kind of reminds me of the captured ice dragon powering the wall theory, right? Because we get a very similar myth about Winterfell and the world of ice and fire.
Right.
Hot springs such as the one beneath Winterfell have been shown to be heated by the furnaces of the world, the same fires that made the 14 flames or the smoking mountain of Dragonstone. Yet the small folk of Winterfell and the Wintertown have been known to claim that the springs are heated by the breath of a dragon that sleeps beneath the castle. And that kind of goes to the whole smoke resembling a dragon escaping from Winterfell when Winterfell burns and Summer is looking at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jon even says alive with light. I mean, he's given the...
Yeah, I highlighted that one too, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll speak when I return. I just put classic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't knock people's theory, but the theory is that Benjen is cold to Jon. Jon's going to be the next Lord Commander, or trained to be the next Lord Commander. It made Benjen mad, and he left. Well, because even Jon says he's different from the Ride Up. The Ride Up was Uncle Benjen. Once he got to Castle Black, he did his job. And,
right, First Ranger.
Right. And Jon takes that to heart a little bit, but he shouldn't, because I mean, you got to make it on your own. I mean, you're not my.
It's pretty ridiculous that Jon wanted to go out on this raging.
Right.
He was being really ridiculous.
Oh yes, he thought a lot of himself very, very quickly, and he got put in his place very, very quickly too.
Yeah. I used to buy that. Benjen is just being too cold to him. I'm like, no, he's being ridiculous.
Yeah.
he's like, presuming that he should be going on this ranging, like with the First Ranger to look like this. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's asinine. It's as asinine as Sir Waymore Royce being in charge of his first ranging after only being here 6 months. I mean, noble people, even noble bastards, think themselves very highly.
Yeah, that's just crazy. That really is crazy. I mean, obviously, the Order of the Green Hand thinks that Benjen deliberately deserted, and I do think that they make some good points about it, his dress and his mannerisms and so forth. But I don't know. I do wonder. He's arguably the closest thing we would get to a Richard III if there was going to be a reveal with Richard III, right?
Yeah,
because he's the uncle who would stand to inherit if he could dispossess the Stark kids,
right?
So if he came back, right, Stannis would be happy to pardon him for deserting and to grant him Winterfell.
Right.
Now I don't know that that's going to happen. I'm just saying it's interesting just how many different succession crises we could see potentially in Winterfell. Like that could happen, right? He could show up, take the pardon, take Winterfell,
right?
And then you could have. You have the fact that Arya isn't the real Arya, and so the real Arya could come back. Sansa could try and take a claim in front of Arya.
You got Rickon.
Rickon could come back.
You got
Bran
Bran.
could come back. Jon could argue that he's trueborn, or
Yeah.
maybe we're wrong about the will, and maybe he's actually named in the will, even though I see none of what I would expect if that were true, and I see everything I would expect if Catelyn were true. I agree with Preston. I see none of what I should see. Right.
Right. And I think that the the succession problems in the North would be far worse than it was in the South.
Well,
because there
and
is
then
a whole lot more people.
You've even got the hints at with Harry the heir and the way he's designed to inherit. It almost feels like the hints that you would get of who Catelyn says would inherit if there was no one left, right?
Right.
And so that could even be so even before Benjen in this long list we just built, you could in fact get the cousins in the Vale trying to claim
right, because we don't know. Yeah, we don't know who Rob said. I mean, we know he talked to his mother, and we know he wrote a note, but we don't know the name that he put down in there. So
and we see the reactions you would expect of somebody who the Riverlands really admires, and rather than somebody who would be a complete insult, right? And,
yes.
And naming Jon Snow would be a grave insult to all the trueborn lords of the Riverlands, that they would be in this northern bastard with no ties to the Riverlands. And we don't see any of that. We don't see any of the concerns with the Night's Watch. We don't see anything about sending the hundreds of troops north to get him released before he can be named heir. We see none of that evidence, right? And we see all the evidence that this is somebody who the Riverlands thinks is a great choice. So anyway,
we got off topic or went extra.
Yeah. Well, I mean, arguably, Benjen disappearing is about the succession crisis in Winterfell in a way, right?
Right.
Or could be. Could be.
Also, there is a lot of Sir Alistair Thorne 8. I don't hate him. He is exactly what he is supposed. Anybody who's been to boot camp knows.
I was shocked later on. I was shocked at Tyrion with him, right? I mean, it's the opposite of what I remembered. So, I mean, later on, Tyrion's obviously going to be hostile towards him when he goes to King's Landing. But
right.
But anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah, he's supposed to be that hard. Look, you're not at your mama's place no more.
Yeah,
it's easier to get new recruits to all fall in line because he's not going to sit there and go, "Well, you need this kind of training. You need." No, you got to do it hard and fast. And he does what he's supposed to do. But I don't know if we got to it yet. In a little bit, you're going to see the real Sir Alistair when he gives the news of Bran.
Yeah.
He calls him Snow instead of Lord Snow because he has compassion. He doesn't hate Jon until the end of the chapter. At the end of the chapter, he can't stand his ass.
Yeah. He's kind of a caricature of the classic drill sergeant, right? Where Jon is hating on him, but he's trying to be that hard.
Right.
Leo, come here, Leo. Anyway, Leo's being
trying to make him a better man, but
spoiled brat. Anyway,
he should never send him away either. I don't think Sir Alistair, an anointed knight at the Night's Watch, would ever stab Jon in the back if Jon was Lord Commander.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's a show only type thing. I think in this book, Sir Alistair's one, he's going to come back, and two, he's going to do what a true anointed knight of the Night's Watch is going to do.
Yeah, it might be. He may be more loyal than the rest. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. All right, sorry.
No problem. Even Sansa, who never called him anything but my half brother, since she was old enough to understand what bastard meant. Even Sansa, the implication is that he doesn't really like Sansa very much, that he even misses Sansa. Anyway, he knew nothing of his mother. Eddard Stark would not talk of her, yet he dreamed of her at times, so often that he could almost see her face. In his dreams, she was beautiful and highborn, and her eyes were kind. So
her eyes were kind.
Yeah, that's interesting because she might in fact be a person who visits people in their dreams.
Right, and she also might be a person that has comments made about her eyes.
Yep. Sir Roderick Castle, Jon said warily. There was a trap here. He felt it closing around him. So he's smart enough to know when he's losing an argument.
Yeah, the second he's losing an argument, he realized he was losing the argument.
Yep, yep. And then we did get that line. It's shown alive with light. And I put alive like an ice dragon.
Yes.
This is the end of the world. And then later on, he could feel the great weight of all that ice pressing down on him as if it were about to topple. And somehow Jon knew that if it fell, the world fell with it. And I don't know if Jon's body would be buried when the wall comes down. I think probably not. But if it comes down as part of his resurrection, he could certainly feel the weight of that, right?
Right. That I'm responsible for it falling. Now I have to fix the problem.
Right.
I can see that.
Yeah. There's much to be said for taking people unawares. You never know what you might learn. You won't learn anything from me, Jon told him. Because he knows nothing, or he knows nothing here and will teach Tyrion friendship. The Lord Commander had given him rooms in the King's Tower, so called, though no king had visited it for 100 years. And Lannister dined at Mormont's own table and spent his days riding the wall and his nights dicing and drinking with Sir Alistair and Bowen Marsh and the other high officers. Actually, before we get to what we were just talking about, there's another thing I just realized right there, right? So this is a hint that that Mance Rayder, knowing all about kings and kings' processions and so forth, implies that he has some sort of history with the kings of Westeros outside of being at the wall.
Right. Because you haven't had a king up there in
100 years, it says right here.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So, yeah, but it's also strange that two of Jon's biggest enemies, but and yet Lannister is Tyrion is drinking and dicing with them.
I think he's doing that to get the measure of the two men.
Could be. It just didn't quite fit with the way he despises them, right?
Right.
Well, he still despises it there.
At first, I mean, the one you notice the most is Sir Alistair, and that's the one that when Tyrion jumps in, said, no, tell him, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And jumps in on Jon's side. It's very obvious that Tyrion has a fondness for Jon. And not understanding Sir Alistair's role, in boot camp, it would be called a heavy, meaning that he is hard all the time. You see a little softness when he says snow, and Jon, like, I've never heard that tone in his voice before. But he does his job. He's a heavy. Tyrion doesn't know that, so he jumps in on Jon's side several times in this chapter, actually. And two of them are against Sir Alistair. But this time we got we'll tell him about who's the letter about, and he says Bran. He goes running off.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Are we at the part where they go into the mess hall?
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay. It was better not to speak of the things you wanted. This is an interesting attitude that he has, right? He's kind of hiding his true thoughts from Tyrion.
Yeah.
Did Jon always think this way, or is this the influence of Tyrion and his wishing his uncle dead? I'm not sure. It's interesting that he doesn't believe that you should speak of the things that you wanted. I just thought that was an interesting attitude that he seems to have at this point. But it might be just because of the whole thing where he's kind of wishing his uncle dead.
Right. I mean, we got to stop and think. At Winterfell, chances are he never got to say, "Hey, I wanted to be the Lord of Winterfell," or the things that he wanted, because
he suffers every time. You're right.
Right, and that prepares him for people like Sir Alistair and all that. Because Cat was hard as. Cat probably hurt Jon more than Sir Alistair ever could. Yeah.
If they want to give you a name, take it. Make it your own, says the twisted little monkey demon.
I like that one.
Yeah, because he definitely has trouble with that later. Yeah. He doesn't exactly embrace being called twisted little monkey demon. The spirits of the dead man the parapets.
I like that.
Yeah, and I know LML have speculated we could see opposing resurrected armies, maybe Jon leading the Stark dead or something.
Yeah.
Jon remembered the wish he'd wished in his anger, the vision of Benjen Stark dead in the snow, and he looked away quickly. The dwarf had a way of sensing things, and Jon did not want him to see the guilt in his eyes. So yeah, he's definitely feeling guilty, as he says, but
Right.
we see hints of mind reading in the story right here, right?
Right. You
And
don't know if it's actual mind reading, or body language reading,
right,
or
right,
how. I mean, 'cause we don't know Tyrion that well yet.
right, right. But it sort of hints to the reader at the concept, right?
Yeah, this guy is really good at finding out what people are thinking.
Yep. Jon, he said, I'm truly sorry. Jon scarcely heard him. He brushed off Tyrion's hand and strode across the hall. He was running by the time he hit the doors. He raced to the commander. So did you want to say something about them entering the mess hall first?
When they go into the mess hall, crows nested in the timbers. Jon heard their cries overhead. If Jon heard the crows' cries, then the crows that are sitting up there in the rafters can hear the conversations going on below them in the mess hall as possible infiltration units, however you want to call it.
Yeah. The Great Other and/or Bran spying on them, something like that.
Right. You'll see that again with the Lord Mormont's Raven here in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go back to Jon. He said, I'm truly sorry. Jon scarcely heard him. He brushed off Tyrion's hand and strode across the hall. He was running by the time he hit the doors. He raced to the commander's keep, dashing through drifts of old snow. When the guards passed him, he took the tower steps 2 at a time. By the time he burst into the presence of the Lord Commander, his boots were soaked, and Jon was wild-eyed and panting. Mm-hmm. Bran, he said. What does it say about Bran?
Something on that. I know we've gotten the Stark anger strength, but I'm wondering exactly how fast this boy was running.
Yeah, I mean, it's given that he was just talking about how he missed Arya even more than his brothers, and he misses Robb more than Bran and stuff. It's really interesting. He's really dedicated to his family.
Yes.
Jon's finger traced the outline of the direwolf and the white wax of the broken seal. He recognized Robb's hand. So this was one of many clues that the pink letter was not written by Ramsay.
Right.
I really like the Order of the Green Hands theory, and I pretty much reached most of that same conclusion. They found more evidence for it than I'd ever noticed, but I'd kind of come to the same conclusion as probably altered inside Castle Black, spurred by some sort of message from the Boltons, but then changed by Bowen Marsh.
That makes sense.
Yeah. He woke up, he said. The gods gave him back. Crippled, Mormont said. I'm sorry, boy. Read the rest of the letter. He looked at the words, but they didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Bran was going to live. My brother is going to live, he told Mormont. The Lord Commander shook his head, gathered up a fistful of corn, and whistled. The raven flew to his shoulder, crying, Live! Live! The raven seems happy.
Yes, and that would be Bloodraven looking through that raven going, oh, yes, Bran is alive. That's
Bran celebrating with his brother, maybe, right? It could be Bran, future Bran coming back to celebrate with his brother at this happy moment.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think Mormont's Raven is Bloodraven. I think other things that we see in like the crows and stuff, that is actually a 3-eyed crow. Both of them have recon units inside Castle Black to get the information that they want to opposing forces. We're using 2 opposing birds that are very similar, but also very different.
Raven versus the crow, sure.
Yeah. Sorry. But I mean, even in that, if you read it, okay, you got, he shook the raven off and it flapped its wings and flew to the window where it sat watching. As Mormont drew the roll of paper from his belt and handed it to Jon. Corn? And I mean, Bran gives his birds corn. He muttered in a raspy voice, corn. And then you get when the dang it. We shook his hand, corn, Bloodraven. But my point on this one is Bloodraven doesn't know the condition of Bran right now, because it's only the 3-eyed crow coming in that fallen dream, and it's not Bloodraven. So he's using the crow that he gave to Mormont that kind of gleams some stuff we're more wanting to do. He's using that Raven to find out information about Bran, and then when he finds out that Bran is alive, then that's when he goes, live. He couldn't contain his enjoyment, sitting up there on his weird one throne, going, okay, yes, my next body is coming, and now I know I need to give him help. Someone has to help him get to me.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's not my take, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah. I know we're different on it. That's fine.
Yeah. Like we said, we believe that there's multiple seeds, and it's interesting to look at things, and George tries to keep his options open as much as he can until he kind of commits to something, right? So, I think very few answers are wrong so much as they are things that he may not choose to seeds that may not bear fruit and so forth.
Right. But I mean, everybody sees the seeds whether they like it or not.
Yep. Bran is going to live, he whooped. Lannister looked startled. Jon put him down and thrust the paper into his hands. Here, read it, he said. Others were gathering around and looking at him curiously. The author loves to use the term others. Others were gathering around, right? I used to think it was as often as possible because it was trying to remind us constantly of the true threat, right? So that, but LML argues that it's specifically targeted to certain symbolism of certain groups and things.
Okay.
But anyway, it's I don't know. I feel like almost any group of humans he wants to remind us as the others, just because he's trying to. But I do respect the way LML has gone through and looked at each one and said, no, it's specifically about this
Every
kind of
single
person.
one of that man's videos is just freaking outrageously good. I mean, that man is smart.
Like his stuff.
Whether I agree with some of it or not, that man is smart as all get out.
Definitely doing a good job.
Yes.
Lord Snow wants to take my place now, he sneered. I'd have an easier time teaching a wolf to juggle than you will training this oryx. I'll take that wager, Sir Alistair, Jon said. I'd love to see Ghost juggle. Jon heard Gren suck in his breath, shocked. Silence fell. Then Tyrion Lannister guffawed. Three of the Black brothers joined in from a nearby table. The laughter spread up and down the benches until even the cooks joined in. The birds stirred in the rafters, and finally even Gren began to chuckle. Sir Alistair never took his eyes from Jon. As the laughter rolled around him, his face darkened and his sword hand curled into a fist. That was a grievous error, Lord Snow, he said at last in the acid tones of an enemy. So Bowen is really Jon's enemy rather than Alistair, but
right.
Alistair does kind of almost get him killed a few times. Like he does definitely try, and of course he tries to pick on Sam just because Jon likes him and so forth too, right? So
yeah.
Well, I mean,
out of all the young lads, I guess would be the best way to say it, that we see go to the Night's Watch, Sam needs the most training. Yeah. He needs so much specialized training. He needs a specialized diet. He needs specialized weapon training. I mean, I don't know how to put it without being rude. He needed the most amount of training. So I can see Alistair just kind of zeroing in on Sam, but I think he did it extra just because.
Yeah, I mean, if he were doing his job right, he would not be graduating Sam, and so it's not necessarily because he's intending to kill him, but it certainly doesn't feel like his training is likely to help Sam either. So
right.
So your point is that no, that doesn't really prove that he's specifically targeting Sam just to get back at Jon, and that's valid.
Right.
But anyway, and like you said, he's not the true enemy. The true enemy is Bowen Marsh, not Alistair Thorne.
Right. He's not the one that Melisandre is telling to send away from himself. That's one of those. That's why I say that he's a true knight as much as he can be. He's anointed knight. He's very knightly as far as his duty goes. And if Jon became the Lord Commander, Alistair would follow every single order. It's not like a TV show. He wouldn't betray him. He wouldn't stab him. I mean, that's an old sergeant that doesn't really care who's in charge. He just follows orders. And then you're right here in this little section here. This is the next time that Tyrion comes to his rescue, because the whole place is dead silent. And Tyrion's like, uh-oh. Then he starts, and then other people start, and then it grows and it grows and it grows, saving Jon from that moment.
Right.
That could have definitely gone the wrong way.
It was tense. It was him disrespecting an officer,
Right.
and Tyrion turned it into a joke for everyone, right? He's just kidding, guys. It's just funny.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's have a look. I mean, Sir Alistair is a true born of a noble house.
Yeah.
That's an anointed knight, and then this little bastard from Winterfell. I don't care who his father is, and he's doing this to me. I mean, their time period and the way they think, I could understand why he's that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't work nowadays. I mean, you can't be like that today. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Did we miss anything?
I
mean, we missed a lot because this chapter is kind of long, and there's all sorts of things with the bullying and so forth, right? And
yeah, we skipped that.
Right, and that whole thing. So, well, I guess one thing I'd like to say is that we talked earlier about how it seems like Jon had nowhere near proven himself when Benjen disappeared, right? So
right.
Benjen really was the heir apparent. But also with Benjen missing and likely dead, that really opened up a spot. So when he does prove himself,
right,
it's that much easier to then promote him as the steward to the Lord Commander, because the guy who you knew was going to be the next Lord Commander is now missing and presumed dead.
And then Lord Mormont's like, I am told you can read. I mean, that's the Lord Mormont actually taking an interest or asking questions or seeing where Jon is in his training or whatever.
Yeah.
Whether he got it from Benjen or if he got it after Benjen, because Benjen's been gone so long.
Right.
I mean, he's got people watching him when he got there. So Alistair first. I think Sir Alistair's the one that was informing Lord Mormont about Jon, because he was the one in charge of the whole training.
So you can't. You have to let the lords communicate with their sons. The sons voluntarily join the Night's Watch, right? There's people who are like, well, why did he have to be nice to Royce, or why does he have to be nice to Jon? And the answer is because, like, you cannot make an enemy of the High Lords, and Winterfell is literally number one, right?
Yes.
For the Night's Watch, like they're maybe number two after the Iron Throne, maybe.
Right. Well, Benjen went when he was 13, and now he's first ranger 14 years later, or however long it is. I mean, that's definitely doing some sucking up right there, too.
Right. So you're going to be allowing those High Lords to communicate with their sons that join. And that means that Jon and Royce are going to be Waymar, Royce, and Jon are going to be sort of reporting back to these lords that you depend upon,
right?
And so there really is a need to take an interest in Jon, right?
There's some politics going on at the wall. Do the Royce family, do they follow the old gods? I can't remember.
I think they are definitely the first men kings that were in charge of the Vale before the Aarons came along with the Andals and stuff, right? So they were maybe if they may have come to embrace the Seven, but they're definitely, and their motto is interesting. It's basically that they remember, or something like that, right? It's like the North Remember is kind of taken to a house words,
right?
So that's always kind of interested me, like that they remember as their words is kind of bizarre.
Right. Well, I mean, it seems to be you got at least one house in the Riverlands that follow the old gods, the Blackwoods. I was thinking the Royce, but it might not be. But it would be kind of cool.
At one point, we're told there's like a dozen of them, right?
I think.
Yeah, it's like Queen Alysanne or somebody who's like arranging matches, and they're like, well, we could never. They don't even worship our gods. It's just like, that's not true. We've got like a dozen houses that worship the old gods in the South, and But she doesn't like list them all, but they specifically comment about how there's something like that.
I think we're going to find out more of the houses as the books go on,
Yeah.
especially this next one.
Yeah.
But that was actually, I mean, even though we skipped some stuff, it was still pretty, I mean, really good.
Yeah. If we went into too much depth, I was worried that we wouldn't be we'd go from our normal half-hour time to like the hour plus we spent on Cat 2.
Well, I mean, it would be just the bullion in the armor room would be another 15 minutes. So it's probably good we skipped it.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we hit the highlights. So
we got Eddard, Ned for Wednesday. You still good for Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've been old new dude. He's been
Richard York, Astro's Trueborn son.
Well, we appreciate you watching, and we will see you Wednesday. Also, Wednesday afternoon, I will be putting out 1 week guitar lesson update. My fingertips ain't liking it too much, but I'm gonna try to power through. But y'all have a good one. We'll see you later. All right, bye.
Yep.